All right. Okay, I'm going to be using English today because no, you know what? I'm going to speak in broken Kabardian. I don't care. You guys will understand. أنا خفص سيديش أراشي قبلاغة نوبة فوتشاد يا بشقوب جراش مدنيب سوا ديجا جوب لجغا جوب بزخوزة قديو دشدزاش ميست نوبة دي دزركيب سلحر يا براوة سجس أنش طق ستيب سلحانوس دي كلاسم قاكور خبارش طق سجس أنش أبتي خواوة دي سيستيممجا دي ميدوتيكمجا طق ستيبس الحنوش يجري سيتسر مستر أمريكانا خوش عشتيش خونشتا يتانا زمان توك دي إجماع يجري ز أحم قوبم ششو دي تلجنش داوا ترمش لجار راشي يا براوا سبجيس أنسخويش دقت قرؤاش ما بدي قوبم شش مر من الجغر في إيش تمامش أو قد نغط تقطع خويش داو قد نغط تشوفنور مي سيستيمر ما ماتيريال خير تبلن خويش داو تذكر قشوخر داو قجروور راشي سيزم توك ريكلامة سغوفاش مس فيسبوك مسا سيفاش مخفف سوري فوشا سيزم جوب سي اش اديجابزا فور بيجنرز فيسبوكم عارف سوري زي خطو نبلاغ منيبل دوخ راشي ريكلامة تقو بس غوفات خط أديك ديرس خر خويتو خويما بس خوتش شأخو راشي بسوري مر زمان كود زيحات شأخو بس خوت خار فيسبوكم جا توصرة تخورة هوا شيترة تخورة زا شيترة تخسرة 250 شيترة تخسرة نبلاغة تذكر بس خوت خات فيسبوكم جا راشي بسومي أبي إيميل أدرسر سخوس حاتي متانا آخر زي إيميل أدرس إيميلر سخويحات إيميلر سخويحار ريجستراتي سيلكة سغوفاتا بديجم راشي أماليت دي أش أديك ديرس خيرس وتصحنا وخويما زر بلش حارة غبز بلش حارة برجيرة جشم أمريكي ديشجا زحاتشا راشي بلش حارة زحاتشا برجيس زحاتشا عار ز سيكتيا راش عارز إحراش نخبة بروتسنت بوصرة برج بفنوس أمريكا مشش يا أمريكا يا كندا شوبسو عديك مشش ما أدري إحرا عوستمي شبت بشجج بشحش حراش بشحش حمسة سيديش أمريكا ديش شيكاغو ديش ساحت ربسم تشودزا ساحت ربش قطرة نقرة هوا قصفة ساحت ربشرة نقرة 10:30 تشودزا ساحت ربش قط دوخر راشي بصورة زكاتو بوش منوت بقيقاتشر راشي سيقوهم جا بروسنت بوشر بورا أديكير نقص خام قرالهم بصوري خام قرالهم بصو أو يا يوروب يا حرب قرالهم يا تركيا يا ورسيم صشر أبودو أدري قرالهم شو بصو أمريكا نمش راشي سيف أش خواقم أو بلش حرا برجيرة بصوري زكاتو سيتلاش قديو مديرس مزقوش تاكي باتشا شاشر زر تخر ريجستراتي اش 31 تخر يتانا ما ادري شبتم سيغومشا تخشرا زر تخشرا طورا بالنص راشي بصوري زكاتو يش تخ دي اش مديرس كمشش ريجستراتي اش سزريبكمش اوستمي ده بصوري ده دي تخر ده تخ راشي سزي غومشا مراش ستقخونر تحماخوي صشرة تك زمان داتشما زنقرا بشش شابخوجنوش صشرة يجي لك اخوجنوكم يبقى سيغومشا يشانا يبخانا ابخمشش شدزاكوكمشش خطقم they're not absolute beginners عراشي سيكلنش يجري ونافذ ريشاكما بتيهواوا أو بقديزة تخدي أما أزينات زرحاش وي مستر عراشي أبقدو تخدي أما يريكورا intermediate course قزو أخنوش материал زريس مش عوا عارف وزغت لاغونش نوبا عراش يعرف تسيسي خبارش عراش يجبستو ددي سيستممشا ددي ميثوديكمشا تاك دزرتيبس التحنش يبانا وبش ورخر في اما داويتش قزو وبش منافذ ورتشنش ددي ديرسم تيخواوا بساشم بابشا ليديا يابم شغل قجياش خونشيرخون دا ابقو يا زغور فز دا ابقو فنوش idea gor khirsi asha betekhwa ari dizrtebs الحنوش يبقى انا شارك ما بقديش زمان قد الجنو مع زمان تاك دي اما يا مو ادري ديرس مشش يجري دزرتبس الحنوش ترمشم كودو داوا ادابتيرفيت تشوفنو هذه قبلتها يا دي زمان تاك مانشما مس دي ادري سسي ادري intermediate course فزغت لاغونش تشاشو خونوا بخدو agenda خونش
ديرسمي فيديو ويا زي بغاجات
حاول قصف حاكم اب فيديو ريكورد يس او قد قطركم راشي شغب سجاش خبرش مشا جس انش يا برج هوا غبجم قص صحتشا م TPRS University قزق بلغاش راشي تحماخم قريب بدو زو ابس يسر عرق وزا تزغاس الدوامة TPRS ميثودكم شا دزر الجنر يتانا الشبات بشججم ساعتر يمس سيديشي أمريكا سا نمتبزا كورس I'm auditing the course سا نمتبزا سوبسلفر أو سا سيبتلن سخويش داومو أدري يغجاك ورقا سبب نسيستيمر عادشا نوبا أوستمي تشاشو سبجيس أنش زغورم تيوهاو مكورسر أبي سيستيمم راشي يابم شغل تفقفرو أنخويش يابم شغل زغور بفرسور تسرو وشتاش يجيري شوبسو كود شاوة تخيف زري قيغة شاقم أو أبي كورسر أبي قخوتن نغر بسوري زكتو بسقوش. So he's been cited more than 15,000 times. That's unheard of in academia. Abiyitzer Stephen Krashen, Krashen, Stephen, Stephen. Abiya systemer zgwar kharkhatch our abiya nach tsruwa hypothesis zreja comprehensible input. Arash abiqijr زغور ويشحم قخشنما قبرو انفويش comprehensible input كود وي اما بزرق او بدفنوش عرض hypothesis راش زغور نغوش رياش او يتوان ريا نقصروا بيشش سبجس انو مراش جراماتيك زبغش انخويكم بزم زبغش انو مخويما سچ حجمي جراماتيك ار all right I have to go to English now. Study of grammar is a conscious process, which is learning, but speaking a foreign language does not require learning. It requires the acquisition of that language. And the example he uses is that we learn how to spell our names, but we acquire the knowledge of riding a bicycle. We don't study how to ride a bicycle, we acquire that knowledge. Acquisition is a subconscious process that takes place over time. Learning is a conscious process. So we learn when we receive comprehensible input. That input must be interesting, relevant, useful, right? And we don't need grammar to learn. Diasporam shish sasiyadra sasiyanar makodu shap khadidash diasporam shish yizaqokum psasham papsha azinat fobolsha arsasi pshupkhsh arashi abi shupkhor sasish hawsr qadra qaji ash abr azinatra ze adigabz dersum shatas haqam tkif qawu khaqam yijaqim sham
سجاش مارغورا مدينة شكول من جاسس سجم صور بصوت أتقبل استعاجت كودرا أو دخداخو سجفت أمس نوبا من جبني دخداخو أدق تكست سجف مملامي أتى ورسي تكست مي بسنتو سجف مي بس حاجة ديسلكسيا فورما ودوس يس واش أو نخفاش كون
أو سميات ووي شبخم سسيادرة أديك ديرس زي شما أم بتمي يجري دا غنش بصالة جراماتيك شواخر زري يا أقم شو بصالة جا أراشي سق شوخة شعال رزرجة أربج أو تقت أتشم يتانا زغور نغوش بروفيسور قاقواش أبي يتسر Paul Nation نيوزيلندم شوبسو جيئت بزار زبغش أنو خويما زغور learning خطن خويش acquisition فددش our learning خطن خويش يتانا أبجيئت غوغوانيبل دي أش أدي جابز زبغش أنو خويما فبس أوري قفقرو أنوشمر زبغخ زخخين خويش يجن خويش يدوان خويش زبسلن خويش okay
Slide zapać gente.
سنساكم مرختكم سسي سلايد مشش هوا سبجي سراش مبودو so أبجيات أبودو يتانا أبل نوج تقتشم زغور نغوش بروفيسور قاقوات أبي يتر Blaine Ray R-E-Y أراس أبي يونتر Blaine B-L-A-I-N-E بروفيسور قخواش أو يابم شغو اسمه نبزة كورتي جابم يغجاقو شتاش توش يلسم شش أبجيئت متيوري خربسوري ز أمريكان كرز رجاء رامكم one frame يغوفنوش أراشي أبي سيستيمر TPRS Teaching Proficiency with Reading and Storytelling أراشي أبجيئر مبود زرجيئر زبغش أن خويما comprehensible input وخويش شش خمسلو أو comprehensible output عاري وخويش أراشي نختشو زرجيئر comprehensible interactions أراشي تشاشو زغور قبرو أنخويش تشاشو زغور جب أنخويش بسالم بابشة أجر دادي سلايد خمسش ميس جورج شالش جورج زغور خويش صش أجر أراشي comprehensible interaction أراش مبديجم زربجيس أم خودو مبودش there's lots of people قد يخلنا زريقة وطاقم بزرج زغاش أنفوي مسج حاجمي نخبة دي سيستيمر قد وسبب مدنيم زرتيتر يجبستو نخبخر أبقى يريكونكم أبيف آخر سج حاجمي مو بروفيسور زرج أم خدراش دعوة دي ذكر بسوري فيدوس ثقر غاجة زرغاش دعوة تيتس حفنو the تيتس هاش دي بلاش يقانا ثقر غاجر دي ديجة شحبهاش يا دنمي دزدقونو دزرخوير دتشفنش يا نزغوجة خاتش أبي بزار أبخدراش We don't learn languages. We don't learn to ride a bicycle by studying mechanics or aerodynamics or engineering. We do it by sitting on it, and it gives us a purpose. It's a tool. Language is a tool of communication, right? So the way that we learn is not by studying, it's by doing. And so that's what this slide's all about. I'm going to stay in English now because this is getting too complex for my Kavardian. So the way that the course is entirely set up is first, every slide is a story. That story is 1 or 2 sentences, right? So we want to make sure that everyone in the class understands the meaning of what's on that slide. It doesn't matter what language. We can do this entirely in Kabardian, and that's why we have, or I'm sorry, Circassian, and that's why we have pictures. Or we can do it in English, but it's most important that everybody understand what is going on the slide. Then we use a method called circling, okay? And in circling, what we're doing is we are asking very simple questions that are designed to give one-word answers. If the students want to give more than one word as an answer, that's perfectly acceptable, but we're not looking to give them, we're not forcing them to do more than one word answers. So in this scenario, it would be, we want to ask either or questions or yes or no questions. Is George a boy? Yes or no? And then we can introduce new words. Is George a boy or is he a girl? But when we introduce, and it's fine to introduce new vocabulary words, But the moment that we introduce a new vocabulary word, we have to put it on the page and spell it out so that the learners can look at that and they can use that information. That information becomes comprehensible input that they use to generate comprehensible output that then becomes the basis of a comprehensible interaction. Okay, so that's why we're always going to be pointing and we're going to be pausing. Okay, staying in bounds, don't get off course, don't allow the students to take the story into a different direction. So the way that TPRS works is, as the instructor, I am the storyteller, I am in control of the story, I am the one telling the story. Okay, I dictate the story because I'm going to help each student create a character in the story that does or says certain things. Otherwise, if that's not the case, every student's going to be a boy who says yes, because the word boy is on the page and it's the path of least resistance. But by giving people roles, I can introduce new scenarios, new words, new vocabulary. And so the method is very powerful and robust. I still remember the Portuguese they taught me 8 weeks ago, but it is taxing on the instructor because it's almost like being in a improvisational comedy routine. Okay. Encouraging choral responses. It's fine. It's good for everybody to answer, right? We are going to go super slow. A rule of thumb is that it may take up to 1 hour per slide. And if you think about it, at first, I think even Lara, she was like, "Is that really make sense?" But if you have as little as 6 or 8 students in a class, and then you think of I'm going, you're going, she's going, where are you going? And you think of all those question words, you know, one of the in TPRS University, it's not on the slide. One thing they said, if you're ever in doubt that people are not grabbing the content or that they're not understanding the story, drill into a fact 10 times. So who is George? Where is George going? What does George want? Is George a boy or a girl? Is George happy? What does George want to drink? Does he have the thing that he drinks? Is the thing that he drinks where he is? It's very taxing, but part of the reason that this method works and that it does not require out of class studying or anything like that is because what we're doing is we're actually building neuromuscular circuitry in the brain in real time by drilling and emphasizing and coming at these stories through so many different ways. George is here, George is there. You're going to say these things. You're going to be exposed to these concepts so many times, and you're going to be speaking them so many times that your brain is going to wire the neurons necessary to understand, to comprehend, and to output, right? And to output. So that's part of why we go slowly. And then we use comprehension checks. And this is also called triangling. So I'll get into this in just a minute, but there's 2 methods here, triangling and circling. One deals with using very short yes or no responses to make sure that the actual basis of the story is understood. The other then invites the student to give full sentence explanations. So what we can do is we stop at certain points in the story and we say, explain the story to me. And then we'll choose a student and that student will say, in Circassian, George is a boy, or not George, whatever name from TPRS University, all the language courses use George. We've used a different name, but George is a boy. He wants this. He doesn't have it. He's happy. He's unhappy. So we actually ask every student in the room, if time allows, to explain the situation. And again, because they know the story and because all the words are on the screen, they can use the words on the screen to put the sentences together in their brain. And that is the process of neuromuscular wiring. They're going to figure out what that story means, and then they're going to move their tongue in the way to produce the actual sounds. And we all know people who are Circassian who say, I can speak, I can understand, but I can't speak. Well, this is how we're going to get them to speak. Last thing, just from a teacher's perspective, at this stage, and this is a little controversial, but I subscribe to this. If somebody makes a mistake, we do not correct them unless the mistake has to deal with the fact of the story. So if somebody uses the wrong conjugation, right? If they say, if somebody says, "Schaler sokwa," that doesn't make sense, right? That is a factual mistake. It's not because I don't understand. Is so sokwa hamro schaler makwa? I don't understand what they're trying to say. So we would correct that. But if they make a pronunciation, you know, shala makwa, we're not going to stop them and try to correct that. And part of this is based on the research from Dr. Stephen Krashen. One of the hypotheses that I did not mention explicitly is that stress is the #1 enemy of learning. So we want to keep a very low level of stress and a very high level of confidence. So because we make sure that all the students understand the story, if we correct a fact about the story, people have a lot of confidence in their ability to understand a super simple story like this boy wants a juice, right? But people have a lot of apprehension, a lot of fear about their pronunciation. So we never ever correct bad pronunciation or accents. We do correct factual information in the story. However, if somebody does make a pronunciation mistake, especially with Circassian, where, you know, sl and sl and sl, these are all different sounds, we don't correct them, but we do model the correct answer. So if somebody were to say to me, shala makwa, I'd say, ara, sala makwa, sala makwa, so I would say it, I would model the correct response back to them to make sure I understand, putting the stress on me to understand rather than the stress on them that they made a mistake. Okay, so these are some of the ground rules. And one of the most important things here is that I'm not a teacher. A lot of people, they take a passive role and they think you are going to teach me. Well, that puts the stress of success on me as the teacher. I'm not actually a teacher. I'm a coach. It's on you to win. It's on everybody in the class to win, right? So we will win together, but this is a 50-50 partnership. People say all the time, teach me Circassian. Well, that implies that you take a passive role and I take an active role. That's not the case. This is a 50-50 role. We're part of a team. Our goal is to win together. So here, the ground rules are, I said this before, I am in charge. This is my story. I'm the director of the story. And every time we go through something in the story, I'm going to ask questions and make gestures, right? So who? So even, and this is actually kind of nice because eventually if we switch, you know, there are people who might sound like Hamid. He might say, I'm just going to do everything in Circassian because I don't want to do English and I don't want to do Russian and I don't want to do Turkish. That's fine. He can say who, right? What, where, right? We can use all these hand gestures. When, why? So we can do these things to get people to engage with us. And this is another reason why we see all those question words around the screen. There is a very high level of improvisational aspect of this. So what's going to happen is I will be introducing new characters, new stories, new facts. I'll spell them out on the screen, but then that gives me more opportunities to ask people what's going on. I might say ps instead of psf. I might say dlen instead of psf. You know, I might say mus'aler psafhuekum, psihosha, psihuesh. Then I could put psihosha on the screen, and then I could say, whoa, psihosha, are you thirsty, right? And I would make sure everything's understood. But then if Zali is a character in my story, because it's my rules, I'll say Zali psihosha, right? And I'd put hosha on the screen, right? And then maybe I'd ask Lara, Zali psihosha. And she might say Nta, she might say Hawa, and I would spell Nta and Hawa on the screen. And then I would say, so tell me, put it into a sentence. And then Lara would say, Zali psihosha, right? So that's how we get the story to keep evolving and we keep using more of these question words. In terms of the learner, right? In terms of the learner, there's two things that are going to happen every time I speak, all right? Anytime I introduce a new piece of factual information, I want all the students to say, oh, it drives engagement. It makes sure that nobody is tuning us out, right? And it also makes sure that people understand there's something new that I just introduced that they should comprehend, right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is we are going to have a, what's the word I'm looking for? We are every so often, to make sure that everybody is actually paying attention in the class, I'm going to say class, and there's a response word. So in different languages, it's different things. In our class, it's going to be sit, class, sit, right? And that's a way to make sure everybody knows, hey, we were laughing, we were joking, but I want to get us back on track. And it's another way to drive engagement. So active engagement through, oh, oh, and I actually want people to go, oh, okay.
Yes, spike of attention as well.
Spike of attention, yes. And then I'm going to say, class, sit. And then I'll say something else. The other thing is, and this was really funny, and this was really fun and funny when I was in the Portuguese class, and it's funny in the German class, rejoiners. So there's some fun word, okay? So in Portuguese, óbvio, obviously, okay? So it's like, George is a boy, óbvio, and you give all the students the right to say this word whenever they want. So maybe for Adigabs, it's Deutsch, right? In German, it's natürlich, right? So it's just like, it's a fun word that anybody has the right to throw out to just make sure that they're having fun with this as well, right? But then if we say something like, you know, mir alles, oh, and then if somebody says, if somebody says somebody else can say Deutsch alles, right? So it's another way to drive class engagement. The other thing is, anytime somebody says something that is, and we want to praise as much as possible. In a lot of the Latin-based languages, say celebration, right? So celebration is not what we would say in Kabardian. I might say right? Just something that acknowledges that somebody, even if somebody puts two words together that are properly done, we want to say and then the whole class is going to say right? Oh, so that's another way to acknowledge that something positive has happened, no matter how small it is, and to get engagement from the rest of the class. The last two things are that in the story, anything is possible. So for example, in the German class, sauber. So in the German class, the teacher said, ich bin Soran, ich bin sauberer. So I am Sauron, I am a sorcerer. And then she had a picture from Lord of the Rings, right? So out of nowhere, you know, we talk about George who wants a drink, and then she says, oh, but I'm a sorcerer, and I'm going to keep playing in the story to take away that drink from George. So anything's possible. And when I was doing the Portuguese class, they said, you, what did they say? You are a pizza. I'm a human being. No, you're a pizza. I make the rules. I decided you're a pizza. What was it? In German class, they said, Waschbäre, I think is a raccoon. Du bist Waschbäre. So somebody was a raccoon, somebody was a sorcerer. Why? Anything's possible. And then we want to have this word, even though this word doesn't, it's hard, it's problematic in Kabard and Circassian. Well, in Kabardian and in Adian, we say pet maybe, or nablare, roughly speaking, nablare. One of these two things. If somebody says something that's not quite there, we never want to say wrong. We don't want to say no, because that's going to shatter their self-confidence. We want to give them a word that acknowledges that it's not correct, but they're going in the right direction, no matter how far off the base they are. So I might say, nablare, roughly speaking, nablare. So I might say that in Circassian just to make sure that they know this is not the correct answer, but they're going in the right direction. Any questions at this point so far?
Sounds great. And it feels like I've been using a lot of these principles intuitively, mostly like positive atmosphere. So that way, over time, the students, they have this attitude that these classes are something fun. So they don't have this feeling of, you know, being reluctant to go to study, because studying is hard. That's why people over some time, they feel like, oh, I have to study. Oh, I didn't make my homework, or I didn't do my homework. And it gets a lot of negative emotions. That's why sometimes people just quit, because their confidence is, you know, and motivation falls down. but if you keep it like positive over time, it gives like additional pluses. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So far, I'm liking it, and I would be interested to see how it works with Circassian. I think we need to come up with a list of fun words like that.
Yes.
We can throw, like, I don't know, gubzara, or I don't know, tsizbana, or something. I don't know. We need to think about that and come up with the fun words. And like you said, I like that idea of inserting words like that. So that's when it's like collateral, what is called collateral learning. Yeah. You learn more when something like this happens. I'm sure that word will stick with you. Yeah, if it's, not part of the learning.
Yeah. The other thing is, this is something that's come up. I'm the first person who will say that I do not believe Circassian people or the Circassian language is as unique as we sometimes want to believe. We're people. There's 7 billion people on this planet. We're not that unique. But there is something that I've come to believe may be unique about our language and our culture. And it's that most people will define national identity through inclusion of who speaks the language. So when I speak German, for example, people think that I'm the child of German immigrants because I feel comfortable speaking. I have a slight accent, but I can say lots of stuff. And then when I tell them I'm not German at all, and I've never lived in Germany, never studied in Germany, they're shocked because then they're like, well, why would you speak our language? A lot of people are like that. Arabs define themselves. Arabs say, he who speaks Arabic is Arab, right? Circassians are the exact opposite. If you are in a group of native-born Circassians from the homeland, and you're speaking and you make one mistake, everyone makes fun of you and they exclude you. You're not really one of us. You're from the city or you're from here. There's a different view for diaspora. Among the diaspora, we do the same thing with ourselves. Don't get me wrong, okay? We do the same exact things. We're not any better. In fact, we're probably worse. But I, as a diaspora, when I go back to homeland, I get given a free pass. These rules don't apply to me. Somehow, for some reason, they don't apply to me as a diaspora. In the diaspora, as a child growing up, if I tried to speak Circassian, I would be made fun of and it would shut me down. And in homeland, I see it as well. You make one small mistake, people laugh at you, they shut you down. So the reason that I like these rejoiners, these acknowledgers is I'm going to bet 99% of our students are Circassian, and I'm going to bet 99% of them have experienced this where somebody made fun of them for saying the wrong thing or whatever. So we need to, they're probably coming in with some psychological drama and baggage, and we need to disarm that as much as possible.
Well, I want to say that also that was part of the sort of learning, part of the ideologies of the countries, many countries, probably not only Russia, because they tend to teach you, the correct grammar, correct language. And if you, for example, don't fit into that so then you are excluded, right? So, for example, back in school, in Russian school or Soviet school, everything was standardized, homogenized. Okay, we all had to speak one correct Russian language, and all accents, including Russian accents, they would make fun of that, right? So, and I assume same was sort of in the US and many countries. So now it's sort of a little bit more relaxed. Don't you think so? Yeah.
I'm in my mid 40s, so I'm not in a position to say what's, what the kids do these days. All right, so let's keep going here. So this is how circling works, right? So circling is, we want to make a statement, and then we want to ask a yes or no question, an either or question, or a who. We're looking for one word answers. Yes, no, either or, who or what, or something, how much, how many, something along those lines. So what we're doing is we keep circling around this factual statement. And as we circle around, we can introduce new topics, right? We can introduce a new subject to the story. So now maybe it's not just George who wants a Coca-Cola. Again, that's just what the TPR, they've drilled it into my head. Maybe it's not just George that wants a Coca-Cola. Maybe Azinat wants a 7-Up, right? So we've introduced a new character. We can introduce a new object. So SOV, we can introduce new objects. So now Azinat, I just did two things. Azinat is a new character and she wants a 7-Up, not a Coca-Cola. And then we can introduce a new verb. So Azinat, she does not want a Coca-Cola. She wants to drink a Coca-Cola. Azinat or 7-Up. Azinat 7-Up yefen huish. And then I would put on the screen yefen, sofa, right? So I'd put it on the screen. So what we do here is we keep circling by asking very simple yes or no, either or, who, what, where, when, why types of questions to validate that the people understand. And if we do know that they're understanding, we can keep introducing new characters, new objects, new verbs, right? And we want to mix it up. We're not going to say to everybody, we're not going to say to everybody, is it Coca-Cola? Is it Coca-Cola? Is it Coca-Cola? Depending on the size of the class, part of the reason that we introduce a new subject, a new object, or a new verb is so that we have variety. If everyone knows, oh, I'm going to say Coca-Cola 3 turns from now, they're not learning, they're memorizing, right? So we want to keep them on their toes. Triangling questions is where we want to, this is where we're going to actually, we can, I apologize. This is where we're going to be asking more in-depth questions. And I made a mistake. This is where we're going to introduce new factual information, right? So we could say to somebody, somebody's going to say to me, George, Nart, or Aslan afwish. I say, Aslan afwish. Right? And then they're going to look at me and be like, well, what? That's a brand new word. I never heard that word before. You're tricking me, right? And I'm saying, so I can then put the word on the screen and I can start to introduce new ideas. And then I can ask whoever that student is, what? And now they're going to use that word in real time. They're going to listen. I just explained majasha. I'm going to put it on the screen. So they're going to learn how to read in context, right? They're going to hear the word and they might only really remember half the letters, but they're going to start to imprint that word as being majashan, right? Majasha. And then they're going to start to say, sasu majasha, wo majasha, sasu majasha. And then I could say, well, majasha ma zagor, and then I can put on the screen, zagor, eat something, right? So this is where the triangling comes in, but it all starts with questions because the rule of thumb is we do not want to introduce any new concepts until we are really sure that the majority of our students understand all the factual information that is on the screen. And if at any point in time, people feel stuck, I can go around the room and say, describe the story to me right now. No one's going to remember all the facts, right? But what's interesting about describe the story is instead of a traditional classroom where you might say, everybody's going to say, they're not comprehending. They're just getting ready to spit out a collection of sounds, right? But if I say, tell me the story, they're going to use the vocabulary that is strongest to them to tell me some aspect of the story of what's going on. And then once I go around the class, whatever factual information may have been left out, I will reintroduce to make sure that everybody understands. And it's perfectly fine to do this in English or in Kabar or in Circassian. It's fine to go back and forth. What's most important is that people understand what's going on. And then the goal here, is like riding a bicycle, right? We're going to start off with this little wagon. I'm going to drag them along. We're going to go to a scooter, a tricycle, but eventually we're going to go to this rocket powered motorcycle, and we're going to be able to cruise along at any speed. So that's the way the system works. That's the way the method is set up. I gave you guys a much more in-depth version of it. When I actually go through the class, I don't want to spend more than 5 minutes here because I want as much time as possible to be speaking. Let me stop sharing. Let me go back here. The other thing, So I think Lydia had mentioned, you know, is there scope for some help or something along those lines? When I was in the German class, what I noticed is that there was an assistant who was there with the German. I think it was one of the higher, the better students in the class. And what that person did was they did two things. What was her name? Pinar, not Pinar. I forget the teacher's name already. Anytime the teacher would introduce a new topic, the helper would take the time to spell that out on the page. And so that was able to keep the class going pretty quickly. The other thing is the helper would look at the chat and respond to any questions that took place during the chat in real time. So with 30 people in one section and then up to 50 people in another section, I would imagine there's especially with everybody being muted by default, there's just not enough time to go around and answer everybody's questions. So if people are available or want to, that's something that could be helpful. The alternative is in classes where that's not available, what'll happen is the instructor looks at the group chat after the class is over. And then when the email goes out with the video link, they answer all the questions. It puts more burden on the teacher, but it's just another way of doing it. So we're at the hour mark. I don't want to, I'm exhausted because it's been a tough week for me with all the stuff going on. What I would suggest is we stop here. What I'm going to do is during the week, I will share all the videos of all the classes on Facebook. I'll share them on one sec. I'll share them on Facebook, and then I'll share them with you guys as well. And when we get together next week, maybe we can talk about, if you guys have a chance, you don't have to watch the whole class, but if you guys can watch it, we can talk about what kind of feedback we're getting. I'm less worried about continuing to translate the materials because we got 3 lessons all done, and it might take several hours to go through them all. I'd much rather that we see, because already as I'm thinking about what the class is, I might end up introducing a lot more written content so that I don't have to keep. Part of it is because I'm not a native speaker. I'm worried I might make some very minor mistakes. So and the other part of it is that the method is difficult on the teacher because you're doing improvisation all the time. So one thing I'm already thinking is, based on the improvisation that I'm already thinking about, we might introduce new slides that have that improvisation scripted for me, so that as more teachers come online in the future, there's less burden for improvisation and more written materials already done. So I would suggest we can wrap up now. I know Zali has a question. I don't want to cut anyone off. So we can wrap up soon, but then when we get together next week, we can discuss how the classes went and how we might take the existing materials that we have and augment them before we even start to do new materials. What was your observation, Zali? What did you want to share?
Yeah, I'm happy with everything, actually. I just wanted to ask, instead of just watching the video of your classes, can we participate?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like just to see in practice how it's all going on, not just the video, but how it works.
Do you have the registration links?
Well, probably there somewhere on Facebook.
Yeah, because you will need to register. Registration's free, but the Zoom link will only work if you have the registration.
Okay.
And then I think it'll send you a calendar thing you can add as well.
And you already had several classes, yeah? 1 or 2?
No, I haven't started yet.
Not yet. All right. And how many people you think will be, to make the class efficient, how many people you think we can put in one class?
I think 12 is the maximum, and I think 6 to 8 is the ideal.
All right.
So you're starting next week, yeah, Janti? Or I mean,
I'm starting so Monday, Wednesday starts tomorrow. Starts tomorrow and Wednesday, and then Saturday starts 1 week from yesterday.
Yeah, I would like to register as well and see if I can.
I'll do it right now, actually. So
it's going to be in the evening, you said, right? So it's
Yeah. You know what?
Good luck.
I'll drop the links into the chat right now so you guys have them. And I'll give more. I'm going to say something more in a minute. Let me drop this into the chat. So this is for the Monday, Wednesday class. And this might be tough for you, Zali, in the UK. Well, 11:30. Yeah, it might be tough for you.
I'm in Nalchik still, so.
Oh, okay. So it's definitely going to be tough for you. And then here is the Saturday class. So the Saturday class is the second one. The other thing is, for a long time, I'm going to thank Lydia for everything, you know, that's going on right now. For a long time, I was doing stuff like this, and then I stopped. And I thought, oh, right now I'm focused on my career. When I get older, I'll do it. And I realized I love doing it. And then Lydia organized the Facebook group, you know, Teaching Circassian in the 21st Century. And without that, and without meeting all of you, and without meeting Hamid, I wouldn't be doing this right now. I would not be doing. And I said to my wife, I said, I'm the one-eyed guy who's leading the blind. You know, but
yeah, it's a collective effort.
But thank you.
We would like to help in this as well.
You are, believe me, you are.
Especially with such a big interest. I mean, of course, my dream was to open this Circassian school online where, you know, everyone, but this is a good sort of maybe we can do that also in the future, but this is going to be a good practice, I guess, you know, this way we will know how many people are interested and just work out the techniques and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, yes. And that's where I wanted to go next with the Circassian School Online. That is, so you guys all know that I run a language learning mobile app business. And I think we're up to about 20,000 subscribers, give or take. The view that I have in that business is that for our platform to work, there's three things that we have to have. There's our content, our methodology, and then our technology. So and that's a mobile app where there's no instructor, there's no teacher, and it's designed to get you to an A2, B1 level, and then that's it, right? For Circassian, my vision is to take somebody from zero to fluent, from zero to native level. And so because of that, there's a lot of things that I do in my study that teachers would say you should never do. Because, like, for example, they say you should just read. Some people say just read. We don't have a lot of good materials. They're not interesting. They're not modern. You know, as broken as my Circassian is, I speak more about modern technology and finance and insurance than my wife does. I feel comfortable doing it. There's no books that cover those topics, right? So that's another reason why on the content part, we're making progress, and we have a lot more. I have a lot that I know Hamid has a lot, but a lot of my stuff is adapting graded readers and CEFR Oxford materials into Circassian. I have a lot of stuff I'm working on there. The methodology is around TPRS, storytelling, interactive, comprehensible interaction, right? I have my own method, which is largely based on this. It's called guided immersion. I gave a lecture on it at one of Lydia's events. And it's basically, it's what you do after TPRS. In terms of the technology, that's where we have a gap. So I have a very good friend who runs a language school, and I asked him, what technology are you using? And you guys, some of you may be familiar, maybe not, with platforms like Udemy or Coursera. These are marketplaces for people to build courses and to monetize those courses. So there is a platform out there called Kartra, and my friend Chris, he's from Denmark. My friend Chris, he lives in Portugal right now. My friend Chris has built 5 language courses on Kartra, and Kartra has language courses, email marketing, Zoom integration. It supports real-time classes, It also supports self-study classes, right? So he and I are going to be meeting this week or next week to try to, for me, I'm basically going to hire him and say, just build me a 1.0 version of the school, right? So that all this Ushanasha stuff that I'm doing, like here's a half-assed registration. Like I want everything to be branded. I want everything. I want the level of commercial quality of our courses to be no less than any other mainstream. That's a confidence booster that people are going to have. You know, Lara helped me earlier this week to come up with a placement quiz. I have the content for it, but it had some, I would not be able to see what the results were for all the students. There were other things in there that just would make it a little bit problematic. But this platform that I'm talking about, it has all that built in, right? So I am starting to make and I'm paying the investments out of my pocket. I don't need anything from anybody. I also, probably next week, I'm going to hire a full-time person in the Philippines who's going to do nothing more than set up all this technology for us, right? So my graphic designer will go away. I'm going to replace, because my graphic designer is very expensive. My graphic designer will go away, but then things like setting up the Zoom link, setting up all the email reminders. What I want to do is have a professional platform that said, because I did this all manually, hey, classes start in 1 hour. And then after classes were done. Thank you for your participation. If you did not show up for the class, sorry we missed you. Don't worry, it's okay. Come to the next class. Here's a video link of what you missed. All the thing I do that, this is my full-time job at work, professional marketing. All the things that are basic for professional marketing, I want to bring them in. And my real vision for the school, Lydia, is to create what I call a marketplace, right? So right now we're doing this for free. People ascribe value to things they pay money for, right? Eventually, what I'd love to do, Lara, all the stuff you have on WordWall, we can have somebody in the Philippines rebuild it for you, and then you should make money on it, because then you're motivated to, and I know you have other motivations, I'm not saying that, but anybody anywhere who has a motivation for our language, it's great that they have that motivation, but you know what? The best brain surgeon in the world, the best heart surgeon for children in the world, they don't do what they do because they love the children or the brains. That's part of it. They do it because they need to make money for their families too. So my goal with this is to create an online marketplace where even, you know, if somebody says, hey, I want to make an extra couple dollars a month by doing tutoring, or I have an interesting vocabulary, this exists for public schools. Teachers will sell each other notes, and they'll sell courses to children as well, or to parents. So the platform that I've selected, it's called Kartra. It'll support all of that. And that's, you know, we'll slowly, hopefully go into that direction.
So my daughter still goes to the Russian school online. She takes drawing, позитивное рисование, one of the classes. It's been a year, I think. And the way they set up is they charge $50 per month from my credit card. So I give them the credit card and it's just automatic. And it's roughly, I don't know, $10 per class per hour. And it's great because she loves drawing. The teacher is from St. Petersburg. She's conducting it in Russian. So she pre-teaches whatever they are drawing on that day, whether it's a panda, for example. So then she says, you know, she shows them pictures, talks about panda, what they are eating, and everything is in Russian. So that way she practices her Russian, the vocabulary. She learns stuff about panda, you know, where does pandas live, etc. And she learns how to draw panda or to, yeah, so that's how I wanted it to be also, right? So not only language classes, but maybe, you know, things like drawing, because I know in Nalchik, for example, we have some very good people like Milana Khalilova, some others who are artists, and they worked with children in Nalchik like several years ago, and they had classes in, you know, crafts, arts and crafts, and all conducted in the language, right? Because that's what kids love. So they love to, you know, arts and crafts, but yeah, also language classes, of course, but yeah. What do you think, Janti?
That's what the marketplace is all about.
And yeah, and about the price, it's not, you know, it's $10. It's not a big, you know, investment. I mean, it's great for us. And what I'm saying is it's better if people pay a little bit, because that motivates you as well. When we, for example, were in Nalchik, we could only go to one class, but, you know, we had to pay for the entire month, and it's fine. I mean, I don't care, but it motivates you sort of to come to class, right? So you want to come to class, even if it's $10, you still want to, you know, get your class. So I think the motivation should be there as well. I mean, in the future, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, now people don't appreciate
exactly.
In a proper way free stuff. They just free stuff, free classes. Oh, that's not that good or something.
Yeah,
so,
even if it's a little bit, you want to go.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm thinking for my courses in the future, right now they're free, but what I want to do in the future is say it's, you know, it's $50 to register. And if you attend every class, you get 25 back. You know, $25 is not a lot. If you lose $50, that's a lot. But if you attend all, you don't have to pass a test. Just, it's like a security deposit, you know?
No, it's motivates as well.
Yeah.
Definitely motivates people.
Yeah.
So that's a good model.
All right. Well, it took longer to go through that presentation than I thought. One last thing, just in case you guys are interested, let me just show you the intermediate course, and then we can wrap things up. Let me find this. Trying to remember where I have this. I think this is it. Yeah. So I'll share my screen. Can you guys see everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So in most of my materials, I have to do them first in I do them in English, then I do them in Russian, because I can find lots of Russian translators. But then I have my Kabardian translators use the Russian because it's hard to find English speakers. Well, people who speak Kabardian speak, and then we can adapt them to Adigain as well. So let me give you an example. Let me show you what this is. So in this course, this is an intermediate course, there are 100 dialogues, right? There's 100 dialogues, and in every single dialogue, we start off with, you know, here is the English, right? Hello, hi, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Do you have plans? Yes, I'm going to meet friends. Can I come too? That would be great. And then we have it in Circassian. So then what we have is, this is called a gloss translation. A gloss translation shows the actual literal retranslation of the Circassian back into English, so that we can show syntax and grammar without teaching syntax and grammar. So dawshit, how, you hyphen stand. Shatin means to stand or to exist, right? So we show, you know, fochus apshi. Apshi means to let it go. We uhur dawshit, your matters, how stand. So now on a word by word basis, the learner can figure out what's going on. And then for every single one of these, I actually have a detailed explanation. So let me, because I'm sharing the screen, there we go. So just for example, for we or here, dawshit, there's no single word used to express the idea of hello in Circassian. The most commonly used expression, dawshit, literally means how you stand or how you exist. In this expression, dawa is an exact translation of how. The verb wushit is conjugated and has a verbal prefix of wu, noting that the verb is directed to you, the second person singular. The infinitive form of the verb is shitin, this verb, shitin, can mean both to stand and to exist. So this is a much more in-depth course. It's still, you know, arguably beginners, but as you can see, we go a lot more in depth. And then every single word that exists in the dialogue is here in the not in dictionary format, but in the format in which it exists in the actual lesson, right? And then we have, again, I have Russian because that's how the translations were done. And then I have it here in English as well. This course, it gives about a 1,500 word vocabulary set. And the 1,500 words are all designed around high frequency words. Then you can get here, you know, for example, let me think. I'm fine, thanks. Right. So so here, the way we translate to English is I'm fine, thanks. But then the way that we do the gloss translation, we do this a lot in Russian too. We drop pronouns. So here you can see anytime we have a pronoun that's understood or any word that's understood, we drop it into brackets, right? And then we go and we actually, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Azinat may have helped with a lot of these because she's done a lot of work with me over the years. But this is what the intermediate course would look like. So if we do end up with students, and again, I would drop these into a PowerPoint slide, but if we do end up with students who are too advanced for the beginner course, I have material ready to go. And these were all translated by a friend of mine who works for the radio station in Nalchik. So I feel very comfortable that the quality of the Kabardian here is good enough. So, all right. Questions, comments before we wrap up, guys?
Not really.
Okay.
Well, I look forward to come to your class tomorrow.
Thank you. Wish me luck.
Wish you luck.
Yeah,
Good
are you
luck.
going to have the, oh, you do have a recording, right?
Yeah.
We'll try to be there for you, don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you. I just hope I don't embarrass myself.
No, it's an experience.
No, that's okay. The goal is to eventually come up with some, you know, good strategies.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to be honest, so don't worry. Well, I'm not going to say anything during the class, of course, but, you know, observations and, you know, I would do this like that, or, well, we'll see. But, you know, I'm there to learn too, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you very
Good
much for all
evening.
your work.
Thank you.
It was nice to see everyone.
Fizeste flux, oh, fizeste not only in.
Здравствуй, Махва.
Die Machwa vor, fizeste flux.
Is a man for.
Joshua.
Was interested.
I was unsure.